Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's Peg, and this is a rebroadcast from our live show, Art Joy of Sharing, which we do each Thursday at 10:30 Central Standard Time. And today we are revisiting the Pick a Stick Challenge. Now, this was a Facebook group that we'd done for about 5 years, and we wanted to revisit that Pick a Stick Challenge for our week this week. We've had a bunch of the people that were in that group join Art Joy of Sharing, and it's kind of fun to do journal pages based on prompts sometimes. So that's what we're doing. The Pick a Stick Challenge has several things that we choose from each time. By that, I mean categories. We have two colors that we pick, and the two colors that we chose were silver and tan. Those are on the purple sticks. Then we have two, what do they call those? Wild cards. And the wild cards are fluffy and scratchy. And wild cards can be used in any instance where you choose not to use one of the 6 prompts that are part of the challenge. Now, I think both Shell and I, when we did this, went straight through the challenge and used them as they came out. But she's working on one of the journal inserts on a traveler's notebook from Ranger, and I'm using one of the small Ranger Delusions journals. And I'm sorry about the camera. You know, it's the way it is, especially when you're doing lives. Things just don't work the way you think they're supposed to. So I'm looking for things that are tan and silver. So I'm thumbing through a bunch of napkins first to see if there's anything there. I have a tan background that I'm thinking that might work. And then I go in search of some silver, and I end up coming up with some, it's like gift wrap tissue that's in silver. It's kind of tan on the back side and silver on the front side. I mean, who plans this stuff out? Shell and I both thought the gods must have been listening because it was really strange how some of the things came about in the prompts this month. So I just tore a piece of that tissue off, and I'm going to get a ruler, and I'm going to tear some strips and some gel medium, and I'm going to glue those down because I need to get those tan and silver colors on my page. And I'm thinking, I might use some of this napkin. Of course, I tried to tear too many layers at once, so I'm making a mess of things first off because that's what I do. I kind of mess things up and then I try to fix them, and it's okay. It's a journal page. It's my journal page, doesn't have to be perfect. So, yeah, there goes that camera again. Anytime you get kind of a white page or, the camera wants to adjust, thinking that something's going on. So we'll have some color down here on the page shortly, and that kind of stuff will stop. So I'm looking through my paints trying to find something in a tan tone because I'm just going to smear some paint around on the page. And the first prompt, other than the silver and tan, is crescent. And so I'm thinking about that. Both Shell and I are thinking about that crescent shape. What are we going to do to use that prompt crescent? And Shell approaches it a little bit differently than I do, which is all part of the fun because, when you're watching the live, we're both on there together and you can see how each of us tackle the challenge. And then, it shows you that there are options available to you. So if you're not familiar with the Facebook group, it is Art Joy of Sharing. And come and join us. Yeah, I think you might have some fun there because we have a lot of different things going on. This month we've been working on watercolor and gel printing and, lots of different things. So, it's all about art play. And so I am just using a stencil here to get a little reduction on that background, get some texture going. And the next prompt is that crescent. So, first I want to layer down some of that silver paper. So I'm just going to use some gel medium and layer those pieces of silver tissue. Very simply. Because remember, this is just the background. We got a ways to go. It looks like I'm getting to the bottom of my jar, so I need to get some gel medium. And next, I'm going to grab some of this tape. It's got holes in it. They use it in construction. I don't know if it's for drywall or what, but it has that tan color on the back side, and I like the texture. So I'm going to add that for another layer, get a little more texture on there. So I'm liking where that's going. And then, let's see. Oh yes, then I grabbed some punches. I have this checkered tissue paper, and I'm going to punch it, but in order to punch through something that thin, I want to put another sheet of paper behind it because, yeah, thin papers don't punch real well. They get stuck. So that's what I'm doing is I'm using a secondary piece of text weight paper behind that to do my punching. And once I figure I have enough circles, then I'm going to layer them up and I'm going to stick them back in the punch. And look at there, crescent. By golly, I can make a crescent shape even when I don't have a die or a punch or all of those things that, you think you have to have because it's that shape. Well, you can make those shapes. You can even take a pair of scissors and just cut it out. But I happen to have a lot of circle punches, so I thought, well, I'll use my circle punches. So once again, we have layers that need to be glued down. So back out with the gel medium and I'll just glue those to the surface. So starting to get a little page curling and warpage because, as soon as you wet one side of the paper, the other side of the paper is not wet. The paper wants to bend and buckle. So, the way you stop that is by treating both sides of the paper. So, typically I might have gessoed both sides, which would stop that from happening. But yeah, I didn't this morning. I just went with it. We were just going to have a play. So I'm gluing those down. And next up is Grim. I don't know where that came from. I had no idea that was even in the bucket. So I'm going to dry this off and then I'll go looking for a quote to use. At first, I thought I was going to use my Dymo label maker, and of course, I start punching in the letters and printing it out, and wouldn't you know it, I run out of the white paper that's in there. So, this is the funny part. I go to the drawer to find a replacement. Do I have white? No, I have silver. Who would, in the right mind would have known I had silver tape? So I got it out, put it into my Dymo machine, and I start printing. And for some reason, the machine does not like the silver paper. It does not like printing on the silver paper. I'm not getting a good impression. So I decide, okay, they're making me work harder for it. The gods are telling me it needs to be silver, but yeah, I can't get it to print right. So I'm just going to write my quote onto the page. And I'm using a PASC pen, and yeah, it hits some of those bumpy textured areas, and of course it splatters, and I don't care because it's a journal page and it's just a quote. So the next prompt is wood, and what I use for that is a stencil. I found this stencil from Stampers Anonymous that's a wood texture, and so I'm going to dig that out and I'm going to use that on my page. Now I start with some product that isn't working real well through the stencil first, which is this paint. It's too fluid, too runny, making a mess. And so, yeah, and I had to take it off of the ring because it was buckling on the page. That's what happens when you're working in a book like this. So I try it out, and I look underneath and I'm saying, oh, that's a hot mess. So I'm gonna wipe that off, and I'm gonna get some molding paste, molding paste, whatever you want to call it, and my stencil out again, and I'm gonna use a palette knife and just push it through that wood grain stencil and create a wood grain on my page. Now you want to clean this stuff off of your stencil right away, so that's what I'm doing. And I think it's in a few areas I'm not real happy with, so I'm just taking my knife and scraping a little bit of that back. And I start to heat this to dry it, and then I think, oh no, I need to do something more. So my more is we got to bring that silver back in here. So I go to my drawer and I start looking, and I find my silver embossing powder. And so I'm going to dump that on the molding paste that's still wet, and then I'm going to heat it. Now, the molding paste is going to bubble a little bit. I don't care. You know, like I say, I keep saying this, it's a journal page, but it will add a layered texture in there that's got the silver on it. So I'm embossing using the silver. And once I get my wood on there, I'm going to reach for a silver pen, and those white areas at the bottom where the powder didn't stick, I'm just going to use a silver pen and colorize those a little bit so it blends in with the rest of the silver colorization. So prompt number 4 is glaze. So I went looking for some glazing medium. Wasn't finding what I wanted. I found this antiquing cream and I thought, well, that might work as a glaze okay. So I get it out and get a sponge and I start applying it. I'm thinking, ooh, that's really red. I didn't really want to introduce that red tone. So I'm going to take a rag and, some water and blend that out. I guess you could call that glazing. But I've got these Mr. Huey sprays. I want to tone that down a little bit. So I'm going to add that to the background and bring it back to something more along the tan tones instead of that red. And the next prompt number 5, is mix. So, this drying takes a long time. So you saw me tearing with my ruler earlier. This is a 3-sided ruler, a straight edge and 2 different decals. And the conversation was about the new decal cutter that Tonic Studio has come out with. And, I'm just thinking, boy, I think they missed the boat on that one. If you saw last year, we did a hack of all the new things that they were coming out with at Creativation and where money could be spent wisely and where, don't waste your money kind of thing, and how you could do some of the things on your own that they had created. And I'll try to remember to put a link in for that particular video for you because, we are artists and we spend a lot of money on art supplies. And when they're just trying to reinvent the wheel and we've already got all of these things that we need to use, um, we don't need to be taken in that way. So I just think that there are so many things. I mean, maybe if you're a brand new person who has never seen anything like that and think, oh, that's just the coolest thing since sliced bread. Okay. But for somebody like me, what am I going to pack? Am I going to pack that great big guillotine cutter, or am I going to take a ruler with me? So, uh, you make your choices. So now I am just adding another layer because the prompt is mix. So I'm mixing it up with some more paint. And the last prompt was smear. I already smeared some stuff around on the page. So we mixed it up, we smeared it up, we did all of that. But the page still needs a focal point. So I'm going to go find some imagery, some cutouts that I've got. I'm just searching through what I already have in my stash. So I'm going to audition several pieces, lay them out, see what I like the best, apply some adhesive to it, fasten things down with a stapler because we're getting towards the top of the hour and we don't have time for everything to dry. And yeah, that's about it. So I'll give you final parting shot and, be sure and check out the Facebook group if you're interested in joining and having some fun with the rest of us and sharing your take on the Pick a Stick Challenge for this month. And also check out Shell's video because I'm sure she has a sped up version for you also. We do this in an hour and a half normally, and this is just the fast version from the live show because we're talking with the audience and taking our time, and it's not sped up 4 times fast. And there's no editing, where things are taken out. So what I'm doing here is I am grunging up some of that tape with some Emerald Creek embossing powder. This has some different textures in it, and um, just going to heat set that and get those pieces attached. Just adding more layers, more interest. And I keep looking for my long reach stapler. I put it someplace, don't know where. So I'm going to use the tiny attacher here to just staple that on. Don't worry about if it goes through the backside because you can always glue some paper over those staples on the backside if you're worried. And so there's my image. Anyway, thanks for being kind, for liking and sharing and all the things that you do to help my channel grow. And follow the links at the end if you're interested in what I was talking about before with other videos that are related to this conversation. So that's it from me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.